Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, joined by James Black on screen this time instead of his behind the scenes role that has been inferred throughout the weeks. To look back slightly on the fixtures that had been, and more pressingly looking forward to the fixtures that are to come this weekend. For this Saturday, Celtic v St Mirren, Dundee United v Hibs, Kilmarnock v St Johnstone, Livingston, Aberdeen, all rearranged fixtures due to the cancellation of the Scottish Cup due to the ongoing suspension of football underneath the Championship. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do that and like this video. Thanks as well for the response on the Stephen Robinson interview. Plenty of good praise and coverage from that, both online and on our YouTube as well. So thanks for that. We took a wee break midweek, but still plenty of action going, plenty of interesting results. Rangers managing to beat Hibs, which went unnoticed because of A stamp, and B, comments about said stamp. Hamilton put up a decent enough defensive showing against Celtic, but eventually just weren't able to really get any results. They've got a lot of injuries and stuff now, but 2-0 defeat for them. St Mirren, bouncing back from the League Cup. I don't think anybody, not even the most optimistic of St Mirren fans, could have predicted 5-1 away to Tannadice. St Johnstone 0, Aberdeen 0. The less said about that game, the better. Mullow getting a big result away to Dingwall, and Livingston doing what Livingston always do, winning games. So that was sort of your brief 30-second roundup of the action that did happen during the week. What sort of results took your eye, James?
Always won St Mirren. 5-1 away to Dundee United that's a fantastic result. I'm sure I heard it was St Mirren's biggest top flight away win. But it just goes to show you just kind of how massive a result that is for them. And it's most likely something that, I've spoke God knows how many times about kind of how much I rate this St Mirren side. So for me, it's kind of been coming a little bit. But I think Jim Goodwin will be hoping that's one they can really use as a platform and kick on and kind of start pushing up the table now.
Yeah, I think we'll stay on the St Mirren because they play Celtic this weekend. Jim Goodwin's always spoke about in his press conferences about how he's always learning as a manager. He's only been in the top flight game, 18 months now. I think in the League Cup semi-final, the only thing people had against the game on Wednesday was if they'd played like that against Livingston. Livingston did well defensively, but they were never really under any pressure. If St Mirren had played like that on Sunday, would they be in a League Cup final spot? Much better chance because they didn't really lay a glove on Livingston in the final. So there's a wee bit of annoyance for that because as soon as they went to two strikers, they looked much better.
No, absolutely. Jim, as you say, he is still kind of learning and getting his feet underneath him, and there is going to be times where you look at games and you go, he got it badly wrong, and he'll probably admit it at times as well. But going into a game like Celtic this weekend with that win under their belts against Dundee United is going to be a huge boost for them. It's going to give a lot of players a lot of confidence. And if anything, it's going to be I think it's one of these moments where, given everything that's went on this season for them, it can kind of be a watershed moment for them, and kind of they draw a line and start moving forward, and kind of looks like everybody's got the worst of the COVID stuff behind them, and kind of hopefully the bodies are the same.
Yes. Right, and we heard from the man himself, Jim Goodwin, ahead of St Mirren's trip to his former side, Celtic.
So no, the lads are in a really good place, as you can imagine. I think the scoreline slightly flatters us, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't think the game had a 5-1 scoreline written on it. At 0-0, there was very little between the two teams. Dundee United had a great chance, and Jack Annick makes a good save. But once we got that first goal, I think you can, it obviously brings a little bit of confidence with it, and the boys settled into the game and played some really good football from there on. Really, absolutely. It's another really difficult fixture for us. Certainly in my time as a player and being here as a manager the last couple of seasons, I haven't enjoyed great success going to Parkhead. So we're hoping that our fortunes will change tomorrow. We're going with an attacking lineup. We'll go there and have a go and see if we can cause Celtic some problems at the back. We all know the threat that they've got up front. Griffiths and Edouard always seem to play well together. And obviously the midfield speaks for itself. They've got great options in there. And, whether Neil decides to change it from the good performance midweek or not, we'll wait and see. But regardless of who he goes with, it's going to be very good quality international players who are coming in.
Right, on to the next one, Dundee United v Hibs. I feel like Dundee United have played Hibs at Tannadice a lot recently. I don't know if it's because they played in the Scottish Cup last year. They had the replays and they've already played a few times this season.
Dundee games as well, remember, that's probably not helping. The two Dundee games, the League Cup, early in the season.
Yeah, it just feels like Hibs and Dundee related teams are going hand in hand in it. But Hibs, they need a result, I think, even though they were a bit better against Rangers. I think it's a not too happy fan base after the League Cup semi-final. I think that one might take a wee bit of time to get over. And Dundee United equally not happy after getting, I don't really know how you put a 5-1 to defeat a home to St Mirren nicely, if I'm being honest, with all respect.
It's an absolute scudding. I thought Hibs were... I've seen a fair bit of praise for Hibs for their performance against Rangers, and I thought they were quite poor. I think looking at the match stats themselves, it was a fairly even game in terms of shots on target and whatnot. But when you look at the number of passes completed and the possession, Hibs were very, very much second best to Rangers. And there's something not right just now at Easter Road. I think that's 5 games in the bounce in the league without a win.
Nah, they won against Callum.
1 in 5, I think it is. Sorry, yeah. But it's nowhere near good enough.
Yeah. They've had a run of poor form. I know, fans were calling for Jack Ross and stuff to leave after last weekend, which is obviously just heat of the moment and stuff. But they've been going well, Hibs, this season. There was I don't think any team outside of really Rangers this season hasn't gone through a patch where they've won 5 or 6 games that haven't been all that great. So they'll be looking to bounce back. And Jack Ross is keen to get a first victory on the board.
Well, we obviously always look at the previous games that the opposition play in the lead up to yours. It's difficult to ascertain whether it's a good or a bad thing at times, because I'm sure Mickey will be asked today about the reaction he'll look from his players, and that often happens in the back of a disappointing evening. And there was obviously anomalies within that game in terms of conceding 2 penalties inside 45 minutes, which is unusual as well. So I think rather than look at the result, it's more about the structure of the team and what they did within it that we pay more attention to. And we definitely feel as if we've had to refocus a little bit as well and concentrating on what we have done as a team this season and what we need to do as a team in terms of going into matches.
Right, just before going on to our next game, Kilmarnock v St Johnstone, 2 things I wanted to touch on. Well, I want to touch on one thing, you want to touch on another. So A, you want to touch on Jack Ross potentially going out and why that isn't the case, and B, Ryan Porteous and Josh Doig have been linked to moves. The latter especially, I think Arsenal and Chelsea are 2 of the big names linked to him.
Am I going first? Am I right? Jack Ross leaving. The idea of Hibs getting rid of Jack Ross because they've had a kind of bad run of form is one of the most utterly ridiculous things I've seen in Scottish football in the last 12 months. And by Christ, there has been a lot of ridiculous shit went on in Scottish football in the last 12 months. Who do you replace Jack Ross with? Like, seriously? Like, any Hibs, and I'm going to put this challenge out here for any Hibs fan that watches this. Come and find me on Twitter and tell me who you replaced Jack Ross with. At James Black 1986. Jesus. Tell me who you replaced Jack Ross with, because I'm sorry, but it's utterly mental.
Wow. Well, I don't think it's very hard to find you on Twitter, right? Go to Scottish Football Argument Twitter and you'll find you in there somewhere. On the youngsters, I think, knowing my luck, I think I did, the last time I did a review or a preview, I said the SPFL hearings weren't happened, and then when I published it, they were announced the results of them 5 minutes later. So knowing my luck, this will have completely changed by the time this is out.
As we're speaking, Josh Doig's at Stamford Bridge holding up a Chelsea shirt.
Well, he's actually one of the they're one of the teams that have been distanced a bit from it because of their managerial situation at the moment.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Perhaps more pressingly, even though that's just interest and stuff, and that was always going to happen. You've seen with Aaron Hickey, the sort of interest that can gather. Scott Banks going down south, Billy Gilmore, obviously the more high-profile one. But perhaps more pressingly is Ryan Porteous. There's been a bid of $1 million for him. Kevin Nisbet, $2 million.
Who's bid for Ryan Porteous?
Millwall, reportedly. So $1 million.
I'm surprised that.
That's just you. You're better not saying anything before you offend somebody.
Who's the $2 million bid for Nisbet from?
See, and we'll speak about it at the end as well with Sam Cosgrove. But one source is saying they've bid $2 million for Nisbet Birmingham City. Another is saying Birmingham City had a $2 million bid accepted for Sam Cosgrove. Now in my head, I've seen stuff as well that apparently $2 million is short of what Hibs would want. I don't, even though they would get a bit back in their 250 grand investment for the summer, I think they can obviously hold out for a lot more, especially if he goes to the Euros. But surely Birmingham City aren't going to pay $2 million for two Scottish players individually. We'll speak about that in a wee bit. Move on to Kilmarnock, St Johnstone. Kilmarnock on a wee bit of a poor run of form now as well. St Johnstone obviously whilst down the wrong end of the league and they're having to sort of push up the way. They are in League Cup final, so there is a good
9 games unbeaten as well, St Johnstone.
Yeah, they've been going all right, but the problem they've had is that a lot of their stuff has been draws.
Yep.
Well, they've been drawn too many. That's why they're down the bottom. If they were able to basically get in front in a few games, they'd be top 6, no bother.
I was quite critical of Callum Davidson earlier in the season, and I was worried that it was getting quickly to a point where they had to either get rid of him or at least see that there was kind of tangible signs that things were going in the right direction. And I think now you're properly starting to see that. I think that the fact they've put together, I think this is the second kind of lengthy run they've put together this season, undefeated. I'm sure they had one a little bit before and then they lost a couple of games and they got back into this one.
Yeah.
He's tried to bring in some kind of good players and beef up the squad that he's got there, because I've never been totally convinced with the attacking options. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Glenn Middleton, so I think he's going to be a big player for them there. Guys like Craig Conway, Michael O'Halloran, they're too hot and cold for me a lot of the time. Stevie May's another one that's on his days is almost as good as kind of anybody as a centre forward in the Premiership, but his day doesn't come very often. So it's starting to kind of turn around for them, and it's going to be a right good test for them, Kilmarnock.
Yes, and speaking of Callum Davidson and Glenn Middleton, we heard from the St Johnstone boss after Wednesday's 0-0 draw with Aberdeen, where he thinks the Rangers loanee can become a big player in the second half of the season for the Saints.
A classic by all means. I don't think either goalie was really tested tonight. I think both teams sort of fought hard. I think the two systems cancelled each other out. I thought we could do a lot better first half. I wasn't particularly pleased with how we played. I thought the reaction to things, how we pressed, wasn't good enough in the second half. I got a reaction from the players and thought a lot better second half. Not really, I don't think so. I think it's just a hard game. It was just a difficult game. I think Aberdeen play a certain style, and they're a good team. I was just a little bit disappointed how when we got in the ball, what we did with it. I thought it was some pure decisions in the first half. Second half as well, when we got in some good areas. These little things obviously help you win games, but I thought defensively, I thought we were really good tonight again. Just another clean sheet. I thought defenders boxed really well, so I'm pleased with that aspect. Aberdeen are a threat in set plays as well. It was good, great to get them on, give them game time. I think it's got to make sure that obviously not play competitive football, proper competitive football. It's training hard, so it's good to get them on, and I think you see there's a lot of quality. I think he expected to score at the end there when they get in that position, so that's the quality I'll bring hopefully to it.
Right. Final game, Livingston v Aberdeen. Before we go on to speak about this game and some of the talking points, I'm going to let you hear the full 6 minutes of stand-up comedy from David Martindale at the end of Livingston 2, Kilmarnock 0. I think we owe a big thank you to David Martindale, because over the course of both a post on my Twitter and Not the Old Firm's Twitter, he's done us the best part of nearly 1 million impressions on Twitter. So fair play to David Martindale. Well done to passing his fit and proper person's test earlier this week. Well done on going unbeaten and things like that. But the real prize is getting Not the Old Firm towards that landmark, of course. I'm sure he'll acknowledge that as well. But take a look at this and let us know what you think.
Can't say everything about your lads doing that right on there, 2 goals.
Yeah, I thought, see, to be fair, but I think we probably, if we'd looked after the ball that wee bit better in the final third in both halves, up until the goals, I think we deserved to be in front in the balance of play. I thought we dominated large spells of the game and just had to tidy it up a wee bit in the final third. But well, that's down to maybe poor decision making, poor finishing, or maybe Kilmarnock defending the box quite well. Probably all three, if I'm honest. But sums the boys up. Kilmarnock will be sickies.
What is there left to say about Scott Pittman, 250th appearance and a goal to boot?
Wee Pitts, he's been brilliant. Wee Pitts, since it was me brought Pitts into the club. I was playing, nobody knows this, well, you might know. I was playing junior football with Pitts when I came in here. So Pitts was, Bowness gets all the credit. Pitts came from Broxburn. He was with me playing, his dad brought me to Broxburn. Pitts left Hamilton and me and Pitts were centre mid, so he used to do all my running, I used to do all his shouting. So, no, it's the truth, honestly. So when I left Broxburn, June 2014, we Pitts signed for Bowness because I'd left and he didn't want left with his dad, and if you know his dad you'd understand what I mean in there. Do you know him, Callum? So he didn't want left with his dad himself, so Pitts signed with Bowness and I went in for him in January, and that was probably the first spell I started. That was when probably my first spell of bringing players into the club. So it was myself that brought wee Pitts in 6.5 years ago, and I remember Butchie saying, I'm not sure, Davey, I'm not sure. I said, we'll get him in, see if it takes him 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to adapt, so be it. And I think he was in 6 weeks, and that was him, bang, straight in the team. Butchie, brilliant, great, love him. Scores in the Petrofac Cup final, I think that was his first goal. And then obviously, Butchie, John was just away, Butchie left, and then Hoppy, he's been in my team ever since that. He's been in the team ever since.
It's no exaggeration to say that he's a club legend status now.
I think so, but you couldn't tell wee Pitts that. He'd go out and get a fake moustache and all that. He wouldn't want to walk about Livingston. Wee Pitts, honestly, he's the opposite. His dad, he hates the limelight. I swear to God, he's been here 6.5 years, and I'd class him as a friend. And I think I speak to him twice a week. All right, Pitts? Aye, he walks by.
Best bit of business you've done, Davey?
Probably, if you look at it, 6.5 years, low maintenance, but you get high output, so you get a lot out of wee Pitts, but you don't generally have to put a lot into him. And I think he's one of these players. Some fans appreciate him, a lot of our fans do appreciate him, his goals at Tannadice and that, but he's the first name. If I say to the players, go and pick a starting 11, I will guarantee you he is in everybody's team. Every player will probably have 2 or 3, 4 players potentially a wee bit different, but he is in everybody's team every week. He's been phenomenal.
That was some effort for your players in about 3 days after reaching a cup final, and given how the interrupted preparations, you said just about the fact that
that's how I had to bring 4 new players in. You had to get a wee bit more energy in the team, and touch wood, I'll certainly would here, but you've got to watch muscle injuries. I don't think people we're very good with not getting muscle injuries, the way we train, the way we prepare. So that was high in my thoughts. We played Sunday, we're playing Wednesday, we're playing Saturday, we're playing Tuesday. So I think bringing fresh legs into the team really helped the team. And then again, I thought the subs were brilliant when they went on. You've got a wee 20-year-old kid that's just came out of the Republic of Ireland, scores basically the goal that probably Pitts gets the second goal and kills the game. But I think VJ's goal gives us that wee bit of belief, and we all probably realise we're taking 3 points again. So, got to take massive credit to the boys that came on.
Has Jay's given you a bit of headache going forward? Because I know you were talking about potentially sending him out on loan and stuff. I guess that's him staking his claim for a place here.
I think the wee man's done enough to probably stay within the squad, to be honest. He's gave me a headache because he's not the brightest. I don't know what it is, I just sign them. They all come to me, I'm like a magnet. Yeah, he's not the brightest, but great kid, honestly. A lot of coaching in him and a few paracetamols I've got to get through, but there's a lot of coaching in him, but brilliant. He's just so infectious. Like, when you speak to boys in the park, and just go on and chase the ball, like, go and be infectious. Yeah. And it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant to see young kids going in the park and you can see their face lighting up, and I think their energy catches everybody else. He's away chasing the next one, somebody else. So it's brilliant. I think a young boy, he's been in the club, 2-3 weeks, he come on and score that goal. I thought fantastic. And see, when it dropped to him, I knew he would hit target. Mm-hmm. I knew the one thing about the kid is he can finish, and he's got a shot. He's got probably one of the hardest shots at the club, and you knew he was going to hit target. So delighted for him.
That just seems to be a thing running through your squad, but if you're 2-0, the game's dead and your guys are still trying to run for every second ball.
I think they actually got a wee boost for that because the closing down and the energy and the press after the first goal was scored, and then we pitched us off. He's away, I think it was Ross Mullen at left centre half. He's away pressing Ross Mullen. They get second going, they're still going and they're still going. So it's testament to them. I thought they were. Showed great character, great resolve and great resilience, and they got their just rewards at the end of the day.
Just a shame for you because it's probably not going to get weeks much better than this.
No, it's been very good. I was a wee bit worried about it. I said that, I goes, lads, you need to go out and pick up points today. See, this is my first proper game, so to speak, as a fit and proper person. I don't know any fit and proper persons. But I'll take that accolade. It's asking the missus, go make me a coffee, I'm a fit and proper person. Just like, chase yourself. But but brilliant. The boys have been fantastic.
For me, David Martindale's probably the feel-good story of the Premiership just now. The run they're on is... They look like a team who know that if they play well every game, they're going to beat whoever they're playing, but they're not quite arrogant enough yet where they think that's the case. They just... I mean, and obviously the fit and proper person test for him is obviously a big thing.
I mean, first of all, I think the results that they've got have vindicated a lot of what we said when Gary Holt left. It wasn't necessarily the case that Livingston had a squad that were kind of deserved to beat that part of the table. It had just been that kind of things had got so far, and when Gary said it was time for him to kind of look at his own future, and whether the players had just kind of got fed up with him. And it's kind of proven that he was absolutely right in that one. Not maybe fed up is maybe not the right word, but they just needed a bit different and a change of voice and a change of leadership and whatever else. So, I mean, that one's completely worked out. But in terms of the fit and proper persons test, first of all, I think it's a good thing that he's passed it. I don't think there would have been any reason why you wouldn't. But I need to see some of the furore over it. It's been completely misplaced. And I think people forget, in kind of the relatively recent history in the Scottish Premiership / SPL, why these things were brought in. The Hearts appointment of Graham Ricks. There was no such thing at the time, and there was a lot of outrage about Ricks given his convictions and his history. So I can completely see why the SFA are in a position now where they're going to go, we need to look at manager. Every manager subject.
Yeah, they have to do it. I think I read something now. I've read something on the BBC, I think it is, because they did a sort of explain the process, and I think David Martindale actually didn't pass this at one point in time during the stint at Livingston.
So I think it was more a hypothetical. What they'd done was I believe they'd originally asked the SFA,
would they,
were we to put him forward, what would the likelihood be? And I think what they were told, kind of understand is what they were told was that it would go through this same process, and there was no guarantees that at the other end he would be deemed fit and proper. So I think kind of with this time round they've almost not forced a decision on the SFA, but they've put it in their lap too. Well, you have to make a decision now.
Yeah, it would have sent a terrible message, I think. Because if they didn't pass him, it would have sent a message to all walks of life, ex-convicts, that no matter what you do, you'll never escape your past.
Conversely, and I think this is where it's been not misinterpreted, but kind of viewed wrongly, as that for me it's a vital process. And I mean this isn't just for David Martindale, this is for anybody involved in football that's got serious convictions, because at the end of the day, what Martindale was convicted of was very, very serious. It's not as if he'd been caught pissed up the side of an alleyway one night, or he'd got into a fight outside a boozer or something that was serious offences. But for me, I don't think there was ever a likelihood he wasn't going to pass it this time. I think given the prominence of his role at Livingston since, he was appointed assistant under Gary Holt. So anybody that's been at Livingston games in the last, 18 months Gary was in charge there? If you've been to watch Livingston, you've seen and you've most definitely heard David Martindale anyway. You know, so he's kind of had this growing profile. And he's obviously got his behind the scenes roles where he was head of football operations, I think Livingston call it. So yeah, it was a very necessary thing, and were such a process not to be in place, I mean, you're going to get to a point where someone like a Graham Ricks, or someone with Graham Ricks like convictions, shall we say, could find himself in a similar position without the necessary checks and everything else. So it's a necessary evil, and as much as people were a bit pissy about it, given what he was convicted of and given what the future could bring for others, it had to be done. So
yeah, no, definitely. But I think, I mean, I know you can't prove everything off a 6-minute clip you've seen on this, but you can tell that he's put his past behind him. I think the quote that I read that probably sums up is he got asked, "Did you get in with the wrong crowd?" And he said, "No, I was the wrong crowd." So I think he understands and stuff what he's done. He's clearly rehabilitated, done his university stuff, made his way in the game. Now he's a successful football manager, and it's bonkers. If he wins the League Cup, then we'll not get into this debate today, but I mean, manager of the year contender, it would definitely be up there. In terms of Aberdeen, let's not get into that debate, because this is already, I can already see the time we're already overshot it here. So
just very quickly, the League Cup will have no impact on that because he's only had 2 games in charge in the League Cup. One was who did he beat the semis? Who did he beat in the semis?
St Mirren.
St Mirren. So they beat St Mirren, and then they'll beat St Johnstone if they win it. So it's not beating Rangers then Celtic. It's not, you know what I mean? If they keep this winning streak up until the end of the season, or at least go undefeated to the end of the season, then you might have a case. But as it stands, there's only one contender for manager of the year just now, and he's a long way in front of everybody else in the country just now.
Yes, Neil Lennon has done very well this season. In terms of Aberdeen, obviously alluded to it a wee bit earlier, Sam Cosgrove potentially on the move. As this goes out on Saturday morning or late Friday night, there's a good chance that he has already completed a move to Birmingham City, because as we sit 10 minutes to 11, there are reports going around that he has agreed a deal to go to Birmingham, and that he's on his way down south for a fee of £2 million. He hasn't obviously hit the heights he did last season. And Aberdeen accepted a bid of £2.75 million from a French side in the summer. For me, Sam Cosgrove's value, at least based on this season, I mean, if you got offered £2 million for a striker that scored 3 goals this season at Aberdeen, and given the fact Dave Cormack spoke about the fact that basically everything's
got a pot to piss in.
Basically everything's hands on deck to keep them afloat. I mean, it makes so much sense.
One of the issues I think Aberdeen probably faced as well was that I'm sure I read something that says they were considering applying for a government loan. And I'm sure people will very much disagree with me on that. I don't really care. But if any football club is having to require a government loan and they're turning down £2 million bids for players, no, you don't. It doesn't fly for me. Why am I keeping your football club afloat as a taxpayer when you're turning down £2 million for a player? No, get that noise away. It doesn't work for me at all. In terms of football stuff, I'd bite your hand off at £2 million for Sam Cosgrove anyway. Yeah. I think it was stupid not to sell him to the French mob when the French mob bid for him.
No, they accepted the bid. It wasn't that they didn't want to sell him. It's that Sam.
I would have done everything in my power to make Sam Cosgrove well aware of the fact he was not wanted to return back to Pittodrie, because that's money that, and even at that point, was going to be crucial in keeping Aberdeen afloat. It didn't mean. How long have we been talking about that? How long have we been talking about the potential doomsday for some clubs on the financial side of all this COVID stuff?
Yeah,
so for any club to be sitting going, and then come cap in hand and going, please sir, can we have some money? Nah, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so and it'll be interesting to see how he actually does in English Championship, because I don't know, you get to that point with some players where you feel like he probably has not just scored, he's obviously, there's a player in there, but it's just not happening for him now. If Aberdeen can get 2 million for him and he can get a life-changing move off the back of it, because you can bet if there's a transfer fee of 2 million involved, he'll be weighed in pretty well. Then it's a good move for all involved, I think.
The Championship's a weird one for me because there never seems to be any rhyme or reason as to why players for Scotland go down there and succeed or flop badly.
No, it's complete potluck.
Absolutely. There's guys that have never kicked their own arse up here that go down to the Championship, and before you know it, they're first name the team sheet and they're starting every single week. And then there's guys up here you can barely get the ball off of. And they go down south and then they're never heard from again. It's mental.
Anyway, yeah, this has been on for a wee bit, so we're going to wrap up there. We hope you do enjoy. We'll do a review of this over the weekend, where we'll look back on another, I'm sure, quiet weekend for Scottish football. I'll be at Kilmarnock v St Johnstone, and we'll also have stuff at Livingston v Aberdeen, and in the Championship as well, we'll have coverage from Ayr United, Alloa, and Morton v Arbroath. So do check all of that out when it's out, and this is the start of my 3 trips to Kilmarnock in 10 days. So I am looking forward to my many jaunts to Rugby Park. But alas from that, we hope you have enjoyed. Do remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and until next time, take it easy.